Welcome to the podcast. My name is Paul. I am a recovered addict to live in Peterhead in Scotland. I'm very pleased to be here. And we're here today with Rob, who's come to share his experience, his knowledge, his understanding and life in recovery, clean and sober. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Rob.
Thank you very much, Paul. Always a pleasure to come and do this for you. And I hope somebody gets something from this.
Super. Well, I just want to say as well, folks, that there's lots of resources on the channel. So by all means, feel free to check out over the podcasts. There's podcasts in each of the 12 steps on the traditions. There is probably over 20 personal stories. Indeed, Rob's got another podcast on this channel called Keep Your Foot on the Gas, which is an excellent podcast. And there's a whole variety of other topics covered. If you're new or even if you're not new and you're looking for support, feel free to put your first name and number wherever you see this posted, and we'll definitely get back to you. We've got lists of male and female sponsors that are ready to take you through the 12-step process so you can be set free from the hideous delusion of drinking and drugging. So if you're looking for sponsorship, let us know and we'll definitely get you connected and find someone to help you through this wonderful process. Remember, you can pause, rewind, fast forward and share this podcast freely. Without further ado, appreciate you, Rob. Rob's come to share his story. I've been privileged to know Rob for a few years now and I always enjoy hearing him. So without further ado, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, mate. It has been a while now, hasn't it? I'm Rob. I'm a recovered cocaine addict, a dry sniffer, as we're known in the fraternity. Not out of ego, but I'm blessed to be 3 years, 3 months. I think it was 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, and a bit of change, and a few days. And honestly, to look at that now and hear myself saying that now from where I've come from, it's a bloody miracle. You know, it really is. I struck gold when I found this program. And if you're listening to this, then I really do hope that you have too. You know, it's like finding Willy Wonka's golden ticket, you know, in your packet of crisps or your chocolate bar or whatever. This is an amazing opportunity you've landed on, and you know, you can live a life free from drugs, alcohol, whatever your fix, whatever your poison is, you can be free of that. So basically, I'll give you a rundown of sort of what it was like in the madness, to give you an idea of my background, and then we'll talk through the steps and tell you what my life's like now. I'm 47, so I sort of grew up in the era of rave and drum and bass and, you know, jungle and free parties. So as you can imagine, you know, from sort of the age of 16, 17, I started dabbling in the scene, dabbling in the party drugs. And I've got to admit, back in the day when I first started, I had a very good relationship with drugs. It was like the perfect girlfriend, you know. It worked for me. And I thought about this a lot. I didn't have a problem back then. I could, you know, pick up on a Friday night, to be honest, get absolutely spangled for the weekend, and put them down on Sunday night and go to work for the week, holding down a really good job, and, you know, a career. And everything was absolutely fine. You know, I was enjoying myself as a youngster, you know, but when I found cocaine, for some reason, and I cannot put my finger on why, it was a different animal. Um, it was like the first time I took it was great. But then from that point onwards, it was like I slipped the noose over my head and around my neck. And every time from then onwards, it got tighter and tighter. And I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but you'll understand why I say that, in a few minutes. Um, so, I started doing coke. It's a social drug, so it was in social scenes. I think the first time I ever took it was a house party, like a barbecue house party with some good friends in the summer. And that plate came round with the note rolled up on it. And did I question what it was? I guessed it was coke, but did I question what it was going to do to my later life, what it was going to do to my health, my finances? Did I even question what, like, the chemical buildup, of it was? Was I going to die from it? No, I just did what I normally do. I rolled the note up, stuck it up my nose, and I think I sniffed about 2 or 3 lines off the plate, which didn't go down too well with people, but as you can imagine. But I had a good time that night. But like I say, things got worse gradually, but reasonably quickly. So there was a few misspent nights, house parties, standing around in the kitchen, boring some poor bloke after death, talking about, the universe, round the kitchen, um, until the morning. But I realized that I had a problem when I was always the last one to leave, and I didn't want to leave. I was quite often kicked out. It was like, come on, like, we've all had enough now. We're going to bed or whatever. Go home, and I wanted more and more and more. I didn't know when to stop, but now I look back at it and it was because I couldn't stop. I enjoyed getting so off my nut that I um, sort of blanked everything out. It's like somebody who drinks to blackout. Um, I used to take drugs to change how I felt. Um, I was quite depressed and miserable with life. It didn't satisfy me, and I needed to change the way I felt. And cocaine did that. The problem was that I just didn't know when to stop. Uh, and I would literally carry on until all the money had run out or no dealers were on anymore, and I had no choice but to stop. You know, and things developed to it going from a social drug to an antisocial drug, where I would have an eighth of coke in my pocket that I'd bought, but I'd go round that party, say I hadn't been able to get any, sniff every other buggers, and then make my excuses and leave because I had an eighth in my pocket. I wasn't sharing that with anybody. That was coming home with me, and I was going to do it on my own. you know. So my behavior started to change, from being quite a generous, reasonable person. I started becoming really tight and wanting to be on my own, getting high, which is not right. It's a bit weird. And, I quite often frequented this is the glamorous part, a travel lodge car park near me, near where I live. And I could sit in the dark down there in my car, not really get disturbed. The police would turn up now and then, and I'd just hide. But, so I was driving my car on it, and I mean properly on it, off my box on it, driving my car, so that's, illegal, not something I would normally do, but um, being a lone wolf, doing it all on my own, weird, just weird behavior. Um, and it got really bad, it got to the point where I used to have like one packet. I call it a packet of personality, um, because it used to give me a personality, because otherwise I was quite shy and, like I say, depressed, anxiety, and stuff like that. And it used to bring me out of my shell. It was a livener, as they call it. So thinking back, I was doing it on my own in the car. I was driving the car, thank God I didn't ever crash. Thank God I didn't ever hurt anybody, driving that car off my nut. And it got worse, it got worse and worse, to the point where I used to do one packet probably over the weekend. That turned into a packet on a Friday and a Saturday. And then, Sundays came in, and then a cheeky Tuesday, and then a let's have one on a Thursday. And then, oh, we're back to Friday. Oh, do you know what? I'll just do it every day. And that every day turned from one packet to a 10th to an 8th, and I was doing an 8th a day every single day without fail, unless I couldn't find the money. And at this point, I didn't have a job. So I was up to criminal behavior, robbing dealers. I've had a criminal background, and suppose been a bit of a tough guy back in the day. And, I thought I was the bee's knees. And, I was going around and, beating up dealers to take their stash off them. I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. I used to wake up in the morning and think, right, who can I scam? What can I do? How am I going to raise this money? Because I need to buy my 8th, So it got nasty pretty quickly, and I was mixing with a bad crowd of fellas that I called my mates, but they would have ate me alive, If I showed any weakness or any vulnerability, they would have turned on me just the same as I was turning on other people. There was no loyalty in that criminal fraternity. So basically, it got to the point where, I was doing an 8th a day. I was starting to get bad health problems, like my nose was falling apart. My mental health was deteriorating very quickly as well. Lack of sleep, all of those chemicals in your body all the time is just no good for you, and my best thinking got me to a point, because I couldn't stop. I used to knock up lines on my phone in the car, crying into those lines, washing them off the screen of my phone with my tears. And you might think, oh, bloody hell, he's admitting to crying and that, But do you know what? I was broken, absolutely broken. I had just no method to stop where I was, The addiction was that bad. And my best thinking one night, Sunday night, my best thinking led me to a motorway bridge on the M40. And I went there purposely because it was a quiet place. I knew I wouldn't get caught. I got a wife. I've got 2 beautiful girls. And I wrote out my letters to them, to try and explain why I was going to do what I was going to do. If this wasn't a cry for help, I went there to kill myself. I had had enough of my life. What sort of life was it? I existed in addiction, but luckily now I live my life. now I found recovery. So, I got to that point and it was literally my jumping off point. But I got caught. Can you believe it? I got caught. And when I look back at it now, possibly, just possibly, it was a little act of God, I'm here doing this today. I do a lot of service. I do a lot of shares and, perhaps I was saved to spread the message because I can talk, I'm a ex-salesman and stuff, and you've got to be confident in talking when you share. I share from the heart, I share perhaps what God puts into my mouth. I don't know, but I always share the truth and from the heart. And it resonates with a lot of people. And, I was caught that night and I shouldn't have been. It was a little miracle that I got caught, but I got taken to hospital. I got sectioned by the police and I got checked out to see if I was safe to go home, And the psychiatrist that checked me out of the hospital searched for CA on Google and found me a local meeting in the next town a couple of nights later. And she asked me, like, please, go to this thing. I know it works. So I went, I plucked up the courage to walk in the place. It was like a little social club. And the now I like to have a laugh, so don't think I don't take my recovery seriously, but I do like to have a bit of a laugh. They say we're not a glum lot in CA. So I walked in and I thought I'd got the wrong meeting because it was a load of big tattooed fellas hugging each other and saying how much they loved each other and stuff, and they're all happy. And I'm this broken man walking in. I mean, I would have crawled in on my hands and knees. I thought I'd found the wrong place. And then I saw the banners at the back saying CA, and it was the 12 traditions and the 12 steps. And my eyesight's not great. And I thought, oh, bloody hell, it's the 10 Commandments. And then I've looked on the table in front of the bloke chairing the meeting, and there's a blue book. And I thought, oh, Christ, it's the Bible. It's the New Testament or something. I thought, I'm not a man of God. I'm screwed here, But I was told to sit down and just listen for the similarities, not the differences, Now, you might not have a criminal record. You might not have lived the start that I've described. You might not have done the same as me, but I bet you were broken. I bet you didn't know how to stop. I bet you'd given up the will to live because nothing else was working. So there's the similarities you need to listen for, not, my name, what I did, that I'm a male, you're a female, or whatever, doesn't make any difference on that stuff. It's the bond that we all have, the thread that holds us all together is addiction. And addiction doesn't discriminate. Addiction will take me, Paul, a guy from Jamaica, a guy from India, a guy from America, a lady from Canada. Doesn't matter what race, color, creed, age, financial status, whatever. It will ruin all of us and strip us bare of the things that we love. Yeah. That is addiction to the core. So I sat down in this meeting. I listened. It was a guy sharing like I am now. And he shared his story. And the first thing I did was I judged. Yeah, I judged. He was a hypodermic heroin user and a crack smoker. And I thought, well, I only sniff the best Colombian stuff, you know, and I drink my vodka off the top shelf, Ciroc. I don't drink it out of a paper bag. And then I got this very, very quick slap in the face of reality when I realized it doesn't matter that I didn't use a pin. It doesn't matter that I didn't smoke a crack pipe. I was still an addict. I was a cokehead. Absolutely bang on cokehead. Couldn't stop. I was doing everything. You know, I had no morals. I didn't give a monkeys about who you were or your feelings. I would hurt you. I'd extort you. I'd get whatever I could out of you and I'd drop you off, you know? So where was I any different to this other guy? So once I realized that, I listened for those similarities and I heard the message, you know, I heard the fact that there was hope. There was hope in the rooms of CA, whether it's online or in a meeting face to face. There was hope in the big blue book, you know. And the biggest thing that I heard is that it's an action program. You know, I've got to put action in if I want anything out. It's like the most amazing savings account you could ever ask for. Because I put £1 in this savings account and I get £3 back. But I got to work for it. I got to prove to the bank that I'm putting the effort in. And if I do that, I get those rewards back. Now, I don't mean financially. I get peace. I get serenity. I get to put my head down on the pillow at the end of the day and go to sleep with a bit of a smile on my face, you know, just a bit of a smirk, you know, I suppose, but happy and content, you know, and that's because of 12 steps. Now, the one that scares everybody is the first 3, 1, 2, and 3. You got to find a higher power. You got to turn your life over, yeah, to your higher power, and you got to trust in the process. You know, you got to have some faith. Your higher power is looking out for you. Now, my sponsor was hardcore. I needed it because I needed my ego broken down, and I needed to accept I was an addict. So he always, and I do the same, little analogies, you know, bring the book into 2024, you know. So I say things in layman's terms. I give you an example of how things work. So step 1, 2, and 3, he explained as simple as this. I can't, he can, I'll let him. That's 1, 2, and 3. I can't carry on living my life the way that I'm going. Yeah, I'll be dead. He can. Number 2, if I believe and I turn my will over to a higher power, who I call God, you can call Mother Nature, whatever you want. You know, it's something that's bigger and better than you. If I do that, I've got a chance of a 24-hour reprieve from my addiction. So I make a deal every morning when I pray. And I ask God for another 24 hours. And if he grants me that reprieve from my addiction, I go out there and do his bidding for him. In other words, I go out and I spread the message. Yeah. I go out there. I don't mean standing on a street corner with a big, sign screaming from the rooftops. I mean, getting on meetings, doing podcasts like this, you know, spreading the message, talking to a newcomer, helping someone out, you know. And then step 3, I'll let him. Having the faith. Put it this way, what have you got to lose? You probably, if you're anything like me, you probably lost it all already. Yeah. because of your addiction. So what have you got to lose? You've only got to be willing. It's not you've got to sign a contract for the next 100 years of your life. Yeah. It's not you got to sign away £1 million. It's got to be willing, you know? That makes it a much softer, nicer, rounder approach. Willing to believe. Well, you've got to be willing to believe. You've got to believe in something. You don't know what the outcome is going to be in your faith, in your program. You know, I don't know where it's going to go. When I started it, I didn't know if it was going to work. Was I going to be dead in 6 months? But I was willing because I was broken. I was absolutely broken. So, yeah, basically, that's step 1, 2, and 3. And also, you need to build a good foundation. And if you can do 1, 2, and 3 thoroughly and honestly, my ego, my sponsor said to me, my ego is like a tall Lego tower and he's going to smash it to bits. Because at the moment, I can be blown over really easily. I hit the floor, I smash into 100 pieces, and I go for default setting number 1. That bag of personality to sort my life out. Well, it ain't sorting it out. It's making it worse. So he said, I'm going to rebuild you as a pyramid. I said, why a bloody pyramid, Phil? Like, what are you talking about? He said, think of a pyramid. Think of life turning up like wind, right? The wind will blow over a tall Lego tower, but it can't blow over a pyramid. It will hit the pyramid and go round the sides of the pyramid or over the top of the pyramid, but you will not see that pyramid move because of the way it's built, a solid base and foundation. Yeah. So that's what we did. So he broke me to bits, but he rebuilt me a stronger character, you know. Step 4, the one that everybody's scared of. Don't be scared of it. If you're worried about step 4 and you're at step 1, you're an idiot. Because once you've done 1, 2, and 3, you'll be thinking about 4 in a totally different light. Yeah. If you're worrying about 4 now, you're going to be scared of it. It's the one that comes with the dun 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 theme tune, you know, the dramatic theme tune. Oh, I know John, he went out on step 4, went back out there, never come back. Yeah, and that's Sue. Yeah, she couldn't do her step 4. Don't worry about what you hear. Worry about what you're doing. You know, if you worry about the gossip and what people are talking about, you know, don't worry about gossip. Keep your side of the street clean. Don't worry about the other side of the street. That's someone else's business to do that. So, step 4, best advice I could give, embrace it. See it as the most amazing opportunity you're ever going to get in your life to get rid of all that shit that you've been dragging around with you, that baggage. You know, I had more baggage than Heathrow's lost and found, and I used on it. Oh, if you had a life like mine, you'd bloody be a drug addict. If you had a childhood like mine, you'd use hard drugs. Oh, I realized very, very quickly I wasn't prepared to be a victim anymore. Now, you're a victim if you hold on to all that stuff and it ruins you, if not kills you. So why not fight it, get rid of it, deal with it, you know? And then you're not a victim, you're a survivor. I'm very lucky. I haven't had half of the stuff that a lot of other people have had in their childhoods or whatever. But I get it. I understand. And I understand how that wounds you, you know. But are you going to be a survivor or are you going to be a victim? You know? So step 4 is a bit like a blackboard. You know, the old school blackboards. My sponsor gives me the opportunity of giving me the piece of chalk. I write down everything in my mind. You have to be fearlessly honest. If you've picked the right sponsor and you qualified your sponsor when you picked them, before you asked them, you shouldn't have any worry about trusting them. I told my sponsor some stuff that basically was somewhere between a confession and an exorcism. I wondered if I needed a priest there with me. I told my sponsor stuff that I swore I would never tell another man, a living soul, but I did it. Yeah. So step 4 is your opportunity, the chalkboard, write it all down. Step 5, oh, even better than step 4. What a step. You get the chance to ask God, yeah, and your sponsor to give you the chalkboard rubber, and you rub it all off. You clean it off. It's gone. If you've written it out, burn it. Have a little, sacrificial burning of the paperwork. You probably don't want anybody else to read that, so burn it. Get rid of it. Deal with it. And as you burn it all off, it's like you're burning it out your own soul. I make a joke and I say it's like a colonic irrigation for your soul. Time to get rid of all that shit, guys. Get rid of it. Flush it away. But it is such a beautiful step. So many people are scared of 4 and 5. Then you got step 6, defects of character. Think of the defects of character like whack-a-mole. If you remember whack-a-mole, the game, you get the hammer, the little moles pop up out of the holes, you hit them as hard as you can and you knock them back down. Well, my defects pop up on a regular. I'm not perfect. I ain't an angel. I ain't a saint. They pop up. Usually anger and things like that, frustration, anger, whatever. But what I've learned in the time that I've been clean is I get better at the game. I whack them down for longer. I'm quicker on the draw. I hit them before they've even got their head out the hole, and I deal with them because I've learned. I've got a toolkit now to teach me and help me when things like that come up, when life gets lifey, and it will get lifey. Recovery is not all unicorns and rainbows and pink fluffy clouds. Yeah. I've had 4 heart attacks, 3 heart operations. I've died a couple of times. I've got PTSD from dying a couple of times. I struggle with my sleep. Recovery's not easy, but it's bloody well worth it. I promise you, because you know how to deal with those things when they come up. So 6 and 7 is your defects to character. Yeah, it's the same as 4 and 5. You identify them, you work out your part to play in things, and then you ask for them to be removed. And I had a lot of them. 8 and 9, amends process. Now you've identified what an idiot you were and your part to play in it. You then get the opportunity to make things right, to speak to that person and ask them what you can do to make things right. Not, I'm sorry, John, that £1,000 I owe you, whatever. No, it's got nothing to do with that. You ask them and then you shut up and you listen. And you will feel someone else's pain and where your part was to play in it. And it's humbling. And it's cathartic. It's amazing. You walk out of these things feeling like you just lifted a ton of bricks off your back. I noticed the time, so I'm gonna speed up a bit now. Then you've got your daily stuff, yeah, your spot inventory, your nightly inventory, your prayer and meditation. I pray every morning when I awake, and I meditate at some point during the day. I pray to ask, for example, my friend Paul's struggling at the moment. Could you just give him a bit of extra power? You know, let him know you're there for him, you know, and I'm not asking for a new Lamborghini. Yeah, the one that I've got will just have to do. Ford Focus, but yeah. You know, and then my meditation is where I sit quietly and I listen for the answers. And I get little God shots. I don't mean I get a text message or a WhatsApp from the man, the big man. Yeah. He's not learned to use WhatsApp yet, but I don't get a voicemail message. I just get something that crops up in my life that I go, oh, bloody hell. Maybe that's a God shot. Yeah. It'd just be a little coincidence or whatever, you know? And then, and the spiritual experience, I want to very briefly talk about the spiritual experience. So a lot of people think that this spiritual experience is going to be fanfares. God comes down, gives you a high five, angels and fireworks. No, no. A spiritual experience, look at the back of your book, Appendix 2. Yeah. A spiritual experience is a change of character. So as simple as this, I once was a complete and utter grade A arsehole and an addict, and now I'm not. I do things for people, not to profit from it. I do things for people because it's the right thing to do, and it makes me feel good. Yeah, it's like my fix. So, you know, go and read it. It's a really interesting little read, and it's not long either, a couple of pages. And then you've got the beautiful step 12. Step 12, the best one of all. If you imagine the infinity symbol, so the figure of 8 on its side, right? The first half of that circle, the left side, is you doing your steps. If you choose not to help other people, call newcomers, share on meetings, do a bit of service, you're not getting to get into the second loop. But the second loop takes you round and takes you back to the first loop. And you're probably thinking, well, why is that then? It's a bit like a roller coaster, right? The first part keeps you busy whilst you're coming off your drink or drug or whatever your poison was. The second part is like your deal that you've made. And for getting recovery and doing the 12 steps and getting some clean time, you have to do something in return, which is to go and take someone else through it. Yeah, sponsorship. Become a sponsor. It will change your life. Because seeing another man or woman get the color back in their skin, get the twinkle back in their eye, when they start to get it and you see them getting the message, it's the most beautiful thing. I can honestly put it at nearly the same as watching my daughters get born. It is a beautiful little miracle. You know, it really is. Giving back, doing service, sponsoring, working the program. I work the program like I'm wringing out a dishcloth. I get every last drop out of it because it keeps me well. You've got to be selfish that it's your program and your program only. But you've got to be selfless that you've got to give it back, you know, and help another out. And I'm going to wrap up with this one because this just shows you how beautiful this program and your life can be once you get this stuff, right? I've got two beautiful daughters, 8 and 10 years old, right? Every time I go out to do a meeting, I usually go out in the car. I say to my wife, I'm popping out to see Uncle Bill, our founder. Yeah. But I say, I'm popping to see Uncle Bill. So the kids don't get it. You know, it's a secret little password type thing. One night I was leaving. I was about 6 months into sobriety. And my kids have seen me in addiction. They've seen the worst. They've seen the police coming through the door and raids and all sorts, right? And my eldest said, Daddy, can you say something to Uncle Bill for us from me and Poppy when you see him? And I said, yeah, of course. I'm looking at my wife thinking, what on earth is this kid going to come out with? She said, can you say to Uncle Bill, thank you for giving our daddy back? Now, still chokes me up today, and that's 3 years ago. But my kids have seen me at my worst, and they've seen me recover. They've seen me find sobriety and turn back into the dad that they always wanted. I can sit and have a tiara put on my head, bit of makeup put on me, and have a teddy bear's picnic with the monkeys and the teddies in their bedroom, and I couldn't give a monkeys who saw me. And I'm a big skinhead fella, right? But that is how beautiful this program is. The 9-step promises come true. But you got to work this like your life depends on it, because unfortunately, your life does depend on it. So work this program like you worked your addiction. Yeah? Flat out until you run out. But this program, you'll never run out. But you can go flat out. Yeah? Just keep working it and you can get well. You can live a beautiful life. You don't have to exist anymore. You can live a full and beautiful life in this fellowship. And with that, I think I'm done, Paul.
Great stuff. That was fabulous, Rob. As always, really appreciate you taking time to carry a message of hope, freedom, and courage and truth. You know, we appreciate your super job. That was great. A lot of identification. You know, I got involved in the supply game, always on a homely basis, you know, with people that I'd got to know, and it was very much a social thing. And it becomes a solution, doesn't it? But similar to you, at the finish up, Rob, most of us end up using on our own in isolation, our world getting smaller and smaller. The consequences pile up, seem impossible to solve. And yeah, man, it just becomes a lifestyle. And this has to become a lifestyle, you know, and we have to develop this manner of living. I sponsored a man recently, Rob, and he sponsored various men for quite some time, but he picked up the pipe again and he was in a bad way, you know. And we had a good chat. We did some work together. As far as I know, he's still out there. You know, he did get some time clean. But he grasps this manner of living, but he's not managed to develop it. And it is a lifestyle, just as using and boozing is a lifestyle, you know, and you're committed to getting more, living to use, using to live, ways and means to get more. Your whole life and thinking centered in drugs. Well, your whole life and thinking needs to be centered in sobriety, you know, and it is a commitment. We're not a cult. You know, Bill Wilson was famous for saying, you are, of course, entirely free to do as you wish to do. However, our group experience has shown thus and thus, you know, and our group experience has shown those that come to meetings regularly stay clean. Those that go through a thorough round of the steps stay clean. Those that take up service and work with others daily stay clean. You know, and it's completely free. You know, drinking and drugging is giving up everything for one thing, you know. And recovery is giving up one thing for everything, you know, and you can have the peace and the joy that was really a false promise. It's a hideous self-centered delusion, isn't it? That contentment and well-being can be wrestled out of drink and drugs. It really is a delusion, you know. And so we maintain the truth in meetings and literature and service, don't we, Rob? You know, we maintain reality. That is to say that we can't use or booze successfully without bringing those consequences into our lives again. Yeah, man, it was a great share, so appreciate you. And yeah, we've never actually met in the flesh, Rob, but you know, I'm pretty sure that we get on. You know, I can imagine myself sitting there in your motor with you, and you've often shared from your motor, and it's always realistic, man. It's always the real deal, you know. What else did I want to comment on? Yeah, man, you mentioned about the joy of seeing new people get clean and stay clean and learn how to live clean. That's the crucial thing, you know, and rebuilding life, taking action, being willing to change, you know, and I've seen folks, Rob, go through the steps, get involved in meetings and literature, but they haven't been willing to change in other areas and it's not worked out for them. You know, we've got to be willing to change. Yeah, man. So, working with others and seeing that miracle, it's not easy working with others. You mentioned the fourth step. I personally, in working with men and women, have had no problems around the fourth step. I think I've worked with a couple who I've chose to pick up again during it. My experience, but in the round, 9 out of 10 folk have not had a problem. And people really ought not to be saying such things in meetings, but they do. And the reason is because sponsorship's a very broad church. There's all different types of sponsorship out there. And the truth of the matter is, Rob, some people are churned out like a production line, barely knowing how to take someone through the steps, and so they don't give correct, clear cut direction precisely how to fill out those sheets with a precise time frame. When we were using and boozing, Rob, we'd sit around for hours doing very little. You can easily get through 4 and 5 in 5 days, for sure. My clear cut direction is never in the evening, morning or afternoon, no more than 40 minutes at a sitting. On that first call, we'll fill out a line. I've got two ways, Rob. I'll either give them the sheets and fill out a line on each sheet so they're crystal clear how to fill each of the 3 types of sheets out. And then I will say to them, right, we're going to end this call now. I want you to write out your resentments this afternoon. If necessary, you can have another session tomorrow morning. That's it. Write out your resentments. It's just the big things. It's not the neighbour's cat woke me up last Tuesday or my mate owes me a tenner from 2012. It's the big things we're writing down. And then write out the fears on the next day and the harms the next day. And then we'll read through them together, spending no more than a minute or 2 on each line, which is what step 5 is. That's how I work step 5. So 4 and 5 is done in 5 days. I do 6 and 7 on one call, Rob. The day after we've finished reading through them together, we make a list of character assets, character defects, about 24 items on each. And we both pray individually through each of those lists. So 4 prayers that, I will pray through the first list, character defects, stroke shortcomings. They will then pray through the list in a similar fashion. I will then pray through the character assets. They will pray through the character assets. So they'll have also done the step 6 and 7 podcast on this channel. They'll have also read 6 and 7 out of the 12 and 12, indeed reading each step in tandem with the work we do out of the book. And that gives them in their own time, and that gives them a thorough experience. So 4, 5, 6, 7 in a week. And I really think that's the way forward, Rob. I've had that many people over the years come to me, Rob. Oh, well, I'm stuck. Well, what guidance have you been given? Well, I'm not sure. He's kind of showed me a bit in the book, and they've said just start writing. Oh, yes, and someone else, well, they've sent me these sheets. Have they shown you how to fill out the sheets? Oh, no. Have they given you a clear timing as to structure, as to how you're going to complete it? No. Well, that's all wrong. That is so wrong. I think to be bordering on dangerous. But anyway, the point is the solution, in my opinion and experience, Rob, is get it done. You'd no problem sitting around drugging for hours. Get it done. You know what I mean? And get it done in less than a week so you can move on through the process. Back in the early days, someone would be through the steps in an afternoon,
Yeah.
I think it's well worth spending 3 to 5 weeks on a thorough round of steps. But I think it's essential that people are given crystal clear direction on how to get through the process. And then I'll say this as well, and I'll be quiet, let you back in, Rob. When it comes to 8 and 9, when we're making the 8 list, right, we will mutually agree realistic, achievable amends, right? And then on 9, we will do them. We can modify it when we have the step 9 chat. The idea being when you get through all 12 steps, you say, well, I actually completed all 12 steps. I hear people say, well, I completed the steps, but I never really completed step 9. Well, why not? Well, because you didn't agree realistic, achievable amends. That's why. It's very important when making the 8 list that things that can be done. Now, over the period of going through the steps, sometimes a bit of modification, and that's fine. So that's how I see it, and that's been my experience, and I haven't had a problem in terms of the vast majority of people getting through. But I so enjoyed your message, and we spoke before the meeting, Rob, about the importance of working with others and being in the fellowship and encouraging others. in this process. Could you talk for a minute or two about your experience of the importance of staying close to blokes in the fellowship?
Oh yeah, totally. Um, I mean, the thing is, people come into recovery. You have to drop a lot of your so-called friends. You'll find out which ones, because the ones will stand by you through your recovery and be proud of you. The ones that are not so much your friends, they're more your using friends, will probably drop you like a hot brick, you know. But that's where, when you come into the fellowship, you know, we love you until you can learn to love yourself. We'll be there to hold you up when, you know, times are hard and your legs are weak. You know, it's a beautiful thing. And, you know, you said about, you know, people worry that it's a cult and stuff. I mean, you know, I haven't done a sacrificial goat for a long time, you know, but you know, it's not a cult. It's a beautiful fellowship of people that are bound together by one thing, and it's addiction or alcoholism. You know, and alcoholism is addiction. Um, I heard a great little saying actually that was oh, what was it? For alcoholism, alcohol is in the glass, but the ism is me. And I thought that's brilliant, you know, because it's us that's the problem. It's not the wine. It's not the gin and tonic. It's not the vodka. It's not the coke. It's not the heroin. It's us. It's centered in us, you know. And the fellowship, you know, people worry about, you know, a boring life. I do more in my life now within the fellowship, and I've got more friends that I can really rely on than I ever had before. You know, like all I've got to do is make that phone call, pick that phone up, and not let it get too heavy before I try and do it, and say, do you know what, mate? I'm really struggling today. Like it's on me. It's, you know, I'm in the malady. You know, if you don't understand the malady, it's like, best way to explain it is my depression and anxiety comes on full ball. Um, I I'm irritable, restless, and discontent. In other words, bored, pissed off, and ungrateful. You know, and I just need to do some work. And even just talking to another fellow, you know, giving you a ring, Paul, or jumping on your meeting, or, you know, that can lift it. That can lift it immediately, you know. Um, so, you know, guys and girls, you know, if you're listening to this, work your socks off in this program, do service where you can, be grateful for what you have, you know, not worrying about what you don't have, you know. And something I've learned in recovery is we've got a little thing called the oh God, just for today card, the yellow card. Basically try and do something nice for someone every day, you know, but not to be rewarded for it, not to be thanked for it. They don't know who did it, but just try and be nice or be kind to someone. And the biggest thing, be kind to yourself. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a pat on the back for what you've done so far. There's one thing that I really annoys me. It probably gets to you as well, Paul. But when people come on meetings and they say, "Oh, I'm only 7 days," I think, no, 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 no. And I'm straight away in the chat. It's never, ever only. 7 days is amazing. You know, I consider myself a newcomer the same as anyone else. I'm doing mine 24 hours at a time. So I'm only a day. I've just got 3 and a bit years experience of it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. And
Mm.
absolutely. And 7 days is a miracle. You're absolutely right. And I was talking to a precious member today that's got a couple of weeks, and, you know, families starting to rebuild, miracles are starting to happen. I've seen folk get remarkably well in a matter of a few weeks from being very ill. emotionally, mentally, and physically, and getting well in a matter of 3 or 4 weeks. I really have. But I've seen folk get very ill within less than a day, mentally and emotionally, and so the bedevilments are always there. The lower power alcoholism is always there. If we don't treat our alcoholism, it will treat us. That's the truth, and I really, really enjoyed what you had to say. And, if there is anyone who it is a lifestyle change, it's in doing the work that we get the freedom. We act to get free. It's an action program. And so once again, if there is anyone listening that's new, feel free to put your number in the chat. We can get you hooked up with a sponsor today. We'll definitely get back to you. There is a lot of hope and support available. On the screen just now is a list of meetings. Now, don't be put off with Zoom meetings. Very few people put their camera on. So you're definitely not obliged to put your camera on, nor are you obliged to even speak. So download Zoom and come along to meetings. These meetings on the screen are on every single day. So you're very welcome to those. The UK Samaritan's number's there, as is the UK helpline for CA. And Rob, appreciate you so much, my friend. That was brilliant.
Absolute pleasure.
Brilliant.
Anything I can do to help.
Well, it's all about carrying that message, and as I say, if there is anyone new, do check out the other broadcasts on the channel. Rob mentioned the Spiritual Malady, which is the mental obsession and the physical craving. Once we get clean, the physical craving stops. Then it's a problem of mental obsession, our mind, our thinking. But the bigger picture is the spiritual aspect, a higher power, a lower power, or God and the devil, or sobriety and drunkenness, or using and being clean. The yin and the yang, the higher power, the lower power, and that's what the spiritual malady is: spiritual, mental, and physical. We're tripartite beings, aren't we? We're spirits in a body, which makes us a living soul, and we learn how to live clean one day at a time, But I believe in permanent sobriety, Rob, but we can only accomplish it one day at a time.
Exactly.
So that's us. I appreciate you coming along, Rob. Thanks for your time. It's really made my day listening to you share today. I always enjoy hearing you share, my friend.
Thank you for asking me, mate.
Super job. Okay, folks, stay strong and check out the other podcasts and get involved, and you too can have a life beyond your wildest dreams. You can absolutely learn how to live clean. Okay, thanks, Rob.
Cheers, mate.